even talk?
Because this is your car we're cutting up.
Yeah, I know. But I talk on the ute.
Yeah. And I work on the ute. Because this is your car we're cutting up.
Yeah, I know. But I talk on the ute.
Yeah. And I work on the ute. What have we done, Zach?
We've cut the sill off. And cut a lot of the inner out as well. So the inner had some rust. May as well fix it while we're here. No point doing a half-assed job. So we'll just patch those back in now. They shouldn't take too long. Set them up and start putting the outer back on, and that front little cone piece. Apart from that, all going well. There's not much other rust to fix in this car. It's like 50-cent piece parts. I don't know what happened to this car and why it was so rusty on one side. Like, passenger side rail was rusty, passenger side sill. So I don't know whether it's like sat in a bog for some time or what's going on, but it's extremely odd for it to be rusty or so rusty on just one side alone.
Oh.
Let's get to it.
So the sill is now tacked and clamped in, along with this front piece. A little infill on the end, which is clear cut in. Why didn't we decide to do the whole sill, Zach?
Because the whole sill wasn't that bad.
No, and the whole sill would have been a lot bigger job.
And it wasn't that bad. We did end up replacing a little bit of the inner sill, which was neither here nor there. Yeah, as Tom said, it's just clamped across the bottom. Saxon's got access to a spot welder from his work, so cheers Sax, bringing it around, helping us spot it off. Yeah, we missed a little bit. We ended up priming all the inside of the sill. We also used some rust converter from Repco. Gave it a good lathering just to try and stop any further rust. Like, the sill's pretty good the rest of the way, just the inner had a little bit of pitting in it, but nothing was pushed through, so I was happy to just leave it. But yeah, apart from that, all pretty good. I'll probably end up welding it through the week, sand it off. I might record some of it as well, but we'll see how we go. But yeah, pretty well. Next job on the list for me is to mount the motor up, make sure the trans properly fits in the tunnel, and then we'll probably take the motor down the coast to the engine builder. Hopefully we take the ute motor at the same time, but we'll see how we go. Probably won't. We'll probably end up getting this done first. Maybe
beggars can't be choosers.
Maybe there'll be a swap over in between. We'll see. So we've just started to fit our Tuff Mounts. It's raining, which doesn't help. The minute we push the wagon back in, it stopped raining. So I'm going to assume once we push back out, it's going to start again.
What's our issue we're having here, Zach?
727s don't really fit in VC tunnels, like at all. So me and Tom are pretty skilled. I think we're just going to cut the whole tunnel out and start again. Just makes it a pain in the ass with molded carpet, but we'll just lift the motor up to where the Tuff Mounts go, and we have torn the seam. These aren't the original floor pans in the car, they have been replaced, but it has torn a pretty crucial seam. So
we're going to zing a bit out, make a bit more room. Zach will put a bit in later that you'll see, and we'll hopefully get this engine and gearbox mounted up properly, check the alignment,
check our angles,
and we should be well on our way to getting it done. Yeah, she's in there.
She's tight.
I reckon you missed a bit. Yeah, you missed a bit on the cut just down there.
Just there?
Just there. Yep, not playing your fingers, right? Loose now. Hey.
So you've just watched us, we've just pulled out the seat, the carpet that was in here and the underlay. Reason for doing that is we picked up these off a local bloke who's just finished a AP6 wagon. His wagon's pretty original, 273 auto in it. He was going to put these chassis stiffeners or connectors in. These are made by SSD Performance in Ballarat, so he no longer required them. They didn't fit his car because it had a rear pan section put in it. So as you can see, this car's pretty good pan wise. Me and Tom really can't figure out what's going on with this car. At some point in its life, it's had a full floor pan put in it. Only the passenger side sill was rusty. There's only been rust on the passenger side, which is really odd. And instead of the bottom of the sill being rusty, it was the top. So it makes really no sense whatsoever. So I picked these up off him pretty cheap. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in now. I know a few of you have asked us to do a video on how we put them in. So here it is. So he's really gone to the time and effort to like mimic the floor as much as possible. So as you can see, there's little raised spots here which will mimic these three ribs in the floor. So the only thing is where they sit, we've had to punch out the plugs. I'll probably end up just patching them closed, and I'll put another drain plug over here more towards the center. As long as it's got a drain plug in it, it's pretty fine. So let's get to it. We're going to paint the inside of them just so they don't rust. But we've already prepped one side, we'll prep this side, and we'll get to it.
Yeah, so we'll show you the prep side, show you how they fit. We're going to wire wheel the underside of the floor and prep it with a bit of that weld through primer, and then we'll start getting them put in.
We did already test fit one, and just by lifting it up, pressing it into the floor with the jack, it lifted both front wheels off the stands. So these should add a shitload of rigidity to the car.
How much welding are you going to do on them too?
I'm not going to weld the full length because that's pointless. When fully welding something, it gives it a full length pivot point. So it gives it a pivot point across that whole weld area. So we're pretty well just going to stitch probably 50 every 100 on these. We'll weld the verticals and the horizontals. But yeah, 50 every 100 and that's it. And then we'll just seam seal between the rest of them. By stitching it, it only gives it a pivot point in the weld. So it gives it still a little bit of ability to flex and move as the car moves, because cars need to move. They shouldn't be rigid. If we welded the whole thing, it'd make it really stiff and it'd probably end up cracking the floor, which isn't ideal for our application or anyone's application. So yeah, we're just going to stitch 50 every 100, I think. Let's get her in.
Let's go.
So this is the one we trimmed up. What we were finding was the issue with this is they put a fold on the front here, which you'll see in a second with the other one. What we couldn't do is it sat too far away from the floor pan with that fold on it. So we just cut it off and it got up closer, and if I can feel it, there's a little step there in the floor pan. Let me get under more, Tom. Hold on. Put it up on the hoist sack.
Oh yeah, the one we don't have.
There's that little step in the floor pan there, and that was just fouling. So I've just sanded a bit more out of that. It's got that closed up pretty well now. As you can see, it's on the jack. What I've done is I've marked it. Hold on, Zach, you're rubbing the microphone everywhere.
Sorry. Sorry for that audio, people.
Oh, that'll be right. It's just a fuel line.
It's getting replaced.
What I've done is I've actually marked it with a texter all the way along, even on this rear part of the rail. We're going to drop this out and couple prime inside it. Zach's going to get under here with a wire wheel and give himself a nice clean bit of metal to weld, as well as clean up the floor pan there, because we want to seal that as well, because once it's on, we're not cutting it off and we don't want it to rust again. It does have drain holes in it, which is nice, so we should never have an issue with it filling up, and we can clean in there if we really need to.
I'll probably go to Clark Rubber and get some plugs that fit.
Yep.
Just so it's shut up, just so it doesn't pull any moisture off the road.
Yep. So we're happy with how that one sits. I'm going to fit up the next one, get them all primed up, and then we'll get back down here on our hoist and we'll start welding them in. We'll probably we'll mark it out maybe first, just so we know where we want to weld.
Probably just need to push it back just a touch from what I can see on this side.
I feel like it needed to go forward.
We'll have a look.
But yeah, so that's how they fit in there.
Looks like you got a toupee on when you lay on the floor, Tom.
Right. So we'll pull it out. We'll get it welded in.
Old Thomas toupee.
That's not catching on either.
Let's do it.
So just thought I'd show you where I'm going to cut this first. So you can see there's this fold on the back here. I'm going to cut him clean off, and that little notch up the top, I'm probably going to take 3mm off that. We'll get it back under there, check how it fits, trim a bit more if we need. So yeah, I'm going to cut this up with my Chinese safety glasses on. Now I will say something, you may not need to do this with all cars. We're only doing it because we found that Zach's cars had a floor pan put in it and it's just fouling us. So these SSD parts are pretty good, but yeah, this one obviously needed a little bit of trimming. So we go back under the car now and fit her up. Now we've got the car up on the hoist here, so hopefully our big heads don't get in the way of the shot. Goes. Yeah. The other thing they mentioned is this brake line. They foul on the brake line. So chop it.
Chop it.
Chop it.
Oh, that was wasteful. Way back there.
Hey?
Way back there.
Back here?
Yeah.
It just feels a bit twisted.
We're fouling up here.
Woo! Don't let go of her. It feels like it there. Seems to be sitting up pretty nice here.
Since we're on that bead in the floor, eh?
It's a pretty nice gap all the way down. I don't know.
Need some more out of there.
Some more out of there, you reckon?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at it on that.
Yeah. It's either that or we can try and beat the pan down to it. Because that's all lifted.
It's all lifted a bit, yeah. Where's the hammer?
Where did I put it?
Now,
see how that fits.
have to test fit 3.
Test fit 3.
You hold the texter. Oh, I don't flake off all the horsepower.
Sorry, man. Better.
That'll be right. We'll put a stitch there.
The one I can get my finger in.
Yeah.
We'll beat the floor down to it.
Mark her out. You're flaking off horsepower again.
I just missed fucking everything. So one thing we will mention is that we do have the car up on jack stands, like obviously to get under it, but we've also made sure that the doors still open and close properly.
Yeah, that's something you haven't been checking.
If the car's level and flat, the doors open and close nicely. If the car wasn't level or flat, the doors wouldn't open and close nicely. So we really want it sitting nice and flat so the doors open before we even like stitch these in.
So you can see where we put the stands is under the rails, front and rear. So they should be the most structurally sound parts of this whole vehicle. You wouldn't put it under the floor pan because that's just stupid. We didn't want to put it under the wheels because it might try to load itself in the center. And that's not what we want. We don't want to sag in the center and have the doors stuck or something like that. Because we want these to touch as nice and as flat as we can. So these points are pretty level themselves. So that's what we've used those for. Alright, Zach is going to wire wheel this one and paint the inside of that other one, and we'll get them in.
Sick. Alrighty, so what we've done is we put the jack underneath it, pushed it up against the floor the best we could, tacked the front off, tacked the back off, and then what we did was Tom got inside the car and we just started at the front, just putting a series of tacks in and just hammering the floor down to where it touches really nice, so we haven't got a massive gap to weld. So as I said before, I've already done the other side, just stitched it in. It's pretty shit to weld under here, pretty shit to weld overhead and laying on the floor. So anyway, that's my problem.
The funny thing with these Valiants, well, not the funny thing, these Valiants were galvanized from the bottom down, so the bottom 100mm of the car was dipped, so it's pretty smoky welding, and it causes a little bit of spatter and carries on a bit when he's welding it.
And the Unimig doesn't really like welding upside down.
Yeah, for some reason both these machines, mine and Zach's, do exactly the same thing. Carry on. So, but yeah, we've got them both in. Zach's just going to stitch this one up, and that's pretty much them done. You can get under here when we get a hoist and wire brush it, clean it up real nice.
Wire brush the whole bottom of the floor, paint the whole bottom of the floor, either in paint or wrap the liner. I haven't decided yet, but these really needed to be in and tacked off at least today, so we can start running shit like fuel lines, brake lines, exhausts. So I've ordered a set of pacemakers, fingers crossed they're here in the next 2 weeks. Apparently a bit of a backlog. Ordered all our stainless elbows this week as well, so we're pretty well going to go 3-inch exhaust to the diff, and then we'll go 2.5 up and over and out the back. I want to run a full exhaust on this. Normally I just dump everything at the diff Full exhaust on this. I want to be able to drive around with the back window down. So to do that, it needs to come out the rear bar. Otherwise, they just circulate back in, and it's not very nice.
Yeah.
Get a gut full of fumes.
So when we do the exhaust, we might head out to Copeland County and use his hoist and his tools and watch him work.
Yeah. Saxon's exhaust king.
Yeah. All right.
No worries.
Get a welder in.